If we're honest, you didn't miss the red flags. You saw them. I saw them. You may not have called them that, but you felt it. And the real question isn't why didn't I see it? It's why didn't I do anything about it? Because once you answer that honestly, it will change how you handle everything moving forward. Let's be honest, most of us aren't lacking awareness. We're making a decision, choosing temporary peace over truth. And if you stayed quiet about something in the past that didn't feel right because you didn't want conflict or didn't want to lose the relationship, then this is going to help you understand exactly what was happening in those moments and what needs to change. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm really glad you're here. My name is Chanda Nicole. I am a certified life coach. And on this channel, I help women make sense of the patterns that led them into toxic relationships so they can heal, rebuild, and start to really walk in what God actually called them to do. Because one thing I have seen over and over again, when you're stuck surviving unhealthy relationships, you're not able to fully build the life you were meant to live. And a big part of healing is understanding how we got there in the first place. I think the real question most women wrestle with isn't how did I miss this? It's this. Why did I let this go on for so long? Why didn't I address it earlier? Because if we're keeping it real, there were moments where you knew something wasn't right. You felt it, you noticed it, but you didn't say anything. And that's where the confusion comes in. Because chances are you're not someone who lacks discernment. So why didn't you act on it? When I look back now, I'll admit I wasn't confused. I was choosing not to confront what I saw. Let's think about it like in the most basic form. A red flag is anything that signals something is off in a person's character, their behavior, or their patterns. And most of the time, you do recognize it. But instead of addressing it, you make a decision. You decide this isn't worth the conversation. I don't want to deal with the reaction. Let me just keep the peace. And in that moment, you're not misunderstanding anything. You're weighing something, truth or peace, and you choose peace. But what that actually means is you're choosing comfort over clarity. And once you make that trade once, it becomes easier to keep making it. I'll share a story from my past when I did this. We were talking about my ex-husband's previous relationship, and he said very firmly, I don't want my kids around any other man she's dating, meaning his ex-wife. And I understood that. But then I realized his kids were around me and we were dating. So I noticed it immediately. That's a double standard. But I didn't stay silent because I didn't understand that it was a double standard. I stayed silent because I knew what would happen if I said something. He had a temper, and it was already clear he did not respond well to being questioned. So in that moment, I made a decision, not about whether it was right or wrong, but about whether it was worth the conflict. And I chose peace. I told myself, this isn't big enough to bring up. Maybe it won't apply to other areas of his life. Maybe this doesn't mean anything deeper. But deep down, I knew what I was looking at. I just didn't want to deal with the response. And what I didn't allow myself to fully acknowledge was this: that was a character issue, not a one time situation. And when someone shows you something about their character and you choose not to address it, you don't make it disappear. You make room for it. This is what it really looks like. You see something, you feel something, you know something isn't right. But instead of addressing it, you calculate the cost. If I say something, will this turn into an argument? Will he get upset? Will I lose this relationship? And when the relationship does matter to you, you will often choose the option that keeps it intact, even if it means silencing yourself. So every time something felt off, it's not that you were confused, you were choosing what felt safer: peace over truth. But peace at the expense of truth isn't peace, it's really self abandonment. And the very thing you were trying to avoid doesn't go away. Hi, friends, quick station break. If this content is helping you, would you do me a favor? I'd like to invite you on the journey with me. Join my weekly newsletter and get more helpful tips like this. It's where I can go deeper into patterns and help you build clarity around boundaries that you will need to move forward with confidence. So check out the link in the description or the pinned comment and join us, join the family, and I'd love to share this free newsletter with you. All right, back to the teaching. Because when you don't address something early, it doesn't stay small, it grows, it repeats, it becomes a pattern. And this is where the irony comes in. You avoided the conversation because you didn't want the conflict, because you didn't want to lose the relationship. But in the long run, that's exactly what often ends up happening. And not only do you lose the relationship, you lose parts of yourself. You lose your voice, your confidence, your trust in your own discernment. And while all of that is happening, your life is being delayed because instead of building what God called you to build, you're managing dysfunction, trying to keep something stable that was probably never healthy to begin with. Toxic relationships don't just hurt you, they delay your purpose. Seeing it isn't enough, though you have to respond because you can recognize everything and still stay stuck. If you don't act, you will still stay stuck. So, what does that look like? It looks like maybe saying, I'm not understanding. Can you explain that? Or, I don't know, this doesn't feel right to me. Or, I noticed this, but I need some clarity on it. Simple, simple statements, not easy, but simple. And it's not going to be easy because it will require courage. It requires discomfort. But avoiding that moment creates something much worse later. Addressing red flags is a form of self love. It's you choosing you. It's you saying, I am not going to sacrifice myself to keep something going. That's what it looks like to guard your heart. And staying silent when something feels off, that's not wisdom, that's self abandonment. So let's bring this back to you. You saw it, you felt it, you knew something was off, you just didn't feel equipped or maybe safe to deal with it at the time. But now you understand. So moving forward, we don't want to ignore this anymore. We don't want to silence ourselves. We don't want to choose peace over truth. We speak up early, honestly, even when it's uncomfortable, because you can do hard things. And that discomfort is temporary, but the clarity you gain facing truth will protect your time, your energy, your emotions, and your purpose. This is what it looks like to guard your heart. And this is where your thinking has to shift. You know, in the Bible, in Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." When your mind is renewed, you start thinking differently. You stop responding the same way, you start responding differently. And that's what is going to allow you to discern what's right for your life. And then once you know that, you can move forward with wisdom. So love yourself enough to choose truth, even when it's uncomfortable, because that truth is what protects your future and keeps you from losing years of your life to something you already knew wasn't right. So, again, if this is helping you and you would like more insights like this, I want to invite you. Join my weekly newsletter, absolutely free to you. But that's where I can go deeper into these patterns and help you build clarity and boundaries you need to move forward with confidence. This message is for me just as much as it is for any woman who sees this. I am walking through these same practices, and I would like to encourage you to come along and walk through them too. And as always, I want you to remember you were not called to be consumed, you were called to be renewed. Bye, friends. Until next time. Love y'all.